I just don't see 1800s here. It's an American foundry in the 1950s.
What you see and what you can prove is two different stories.
I see this all the time. People will bring in things like this, and I tell them it's not real. And they just think I'm a asshole. They think, that guy can't appraise art, but I can. It's not as old as this date says it is.
I don't care what you say. I don't care what you tell me, but I know you're full of
All right, folks, you know that show and you know that man. The show is Pawn Stars, and it's Rick Harrison, the one of the stars of the show on the History Channel. Rick, great to meet you. Great to see you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, my pleasure. We also get to some very serious health concerns and an undertaking that you are involved in here to lower people's triglycerides, which I think is very important. I'm a very health-conscious person myself. But how do you know? How are you an art appraiser? How are you an appraiser? You and all. I mean, what always amazes me is I'm figuring, you know, I know TV. You must go in the back, look things up, have, you know, go online, whatever. But it seems that you appraise everything, no matter what it is. How do you do that?
Occasionally on the show, I do call on other people.
Okay.
I am basically the world's biggest nerd. I mean, I was real sick as a kid, and you know, it was the '70s. You know, generally in the '70s, if you're middle or lower middle income family like we were, you had one TV and it was downstairs. It wasn't in my bedroom. So
black and white with a knob you turn.
Yeah, and we would. I turned it. You know, when I was 8 years old, I started reading some kids' history books, and next thing you know, it mushroomed into, for the rest of my life, reading like 3-4 hours a night, every night, my entire life.
Wow.
It's everything from science books to physics books, very little fiction. And I turned into this nerd. The problem is I don't watch television, so don't ask me anything about popular culture. I mean, the story I've tell here lately is a few months ago, Maroon 5 was coming to town, which I had no idea who they were, and my daughter was like, can we please meet him? And I'm like, is he something special? And they're going like, I mean, who is Adam Levine? And I'm going like, all right, I'll see what I can do.
All right, well, I see T, our stage manager, is laughing. I don't know who it is. I don't have no idea.
Apparently, he's a big deal.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. See, I mean, but just by watching the show, I would never pick you as a nerd, as a kid, and a reader like that. You know,
I was sort of a weird guy. I mean, I'm the kind of guy. I box like 3, 4 or 5 days a week with like Floyd Mayweather's sparring partners.
well, you need some of that. I mean, you know, you got the bodyguards there, or the people, you know, who protect you. But are these confrontations all real? You know, when these people get ticked off, have to be carried out, or
that's not on my. You'll never see that on my show. I mean, there's another pawn shop show where they're act like that. Not on my show.
Not on yours at all.
From day one, I agreed to do this television show as long as it was a family show.
Okay.
And it's a fun show. I mean, I try to make it educational, and I'm filming season 11 right now.
Wow, that's great. That is great. All right. Now, you have a health concern. I mean, I could proudly tell you, and you're going to hate me, that I think my triglycerides are like 60 or 80 or something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
I keep a close
Mine were
watch.
well over 500.
I know, 500, and that's a red flag. And people don't even know. You ask people what are triglycerides, they have no clue.
It's a fat that floats around in your blood, okay? And you know, I'm 49 years old. I go to, you know, this was like 8 months ago. I go to my doctor and
Blood test, simple blood test.
You know, it's the end of every doctor's appointment. It's here, pee in this cup, and you know, take some blood. And you wait 2 weeks and with your fingers crossed, make sure everything's all right. And she called me up after a couple weeks and told me, you know, hey, everything's great except for, you know, whenever a doctor says except for, you know, your heart skips a beat.
Sure.
She told me I had this, and I'm thinking, all right, no big deal. I don't need this prescription she's giving me. I'll go to the health food store. I'll get some fish oil or something. And I did my research, and I realized, you know, some of these things that the
Well, I was going to say fish oil does help triglycerides. Or
but what I found out that most of these things at the health food store, it will lower your triglycerides and raise your bad cholesterol. Okay, and I have high cholesterol too. I have bad cholesterol.
So what's the solution here?
So I took the prescription Visipa, and I started taking it. And through a course of events, the company contacted me, and I said, okay, let me look into you for. I'll endorse the thing. I rarely endorse anything.
And what is it again? What's the company?
The prescription is Visipa. Visipa. That's the prescription drug. And I rarely endorse anything. I will freely admit I've turned down $1 million endorsements.
And what are your triglycerides now after taking this?
They're down in the 200s.
That's great.
Okay, it's a lot better than they were.
So far. Absolutely, yeah.
And so they approached me. I said, yeah, let's I'll do something. What do you do for the people? I mean,
so you come up with this campaign, Lower My Trigs, T-R-I-G-S. We got 30 seconds to tell folks how they can.
LowerMyTrigs.com. The reason why I started working with them is if you go on their website, LowerMyTrigs.com, prescription copay cards. It's only $9 a month. Anybody can afford that because I know there's a lot of people out there who can't afford their prescriptions. Sure. The other things I'm trying to tell people is everyone knows a few weeks in advance, if you got a doctor's appointment, start writing down 1,000,000 questions because it's the same price if you ask them
Your health is in your own hands, and you got to ask questions. But lowermytrigs.com, folks, and you could cut your triglycerides like Rick Harrison. Great to see you, sir.
Thanks
for coming in. All right, folks, we'll be back with Dr. Robert Royal after the break. But first, it was 1972. Nixon visited China. We take a look back on that historic trip with this hour's American Moment.
His presidency was one of the most vexing in American history. Mention the name Richard Milhous Nixon, and some will always remember him as the president who resigned over Watergate. But many others will credit him with one of the greatest diplomatic achievements, the reestablishment of relations between the United States and the People's Republic of China.
As I have pointed out on a number of occasions over the past 3 years, there can be no stable and enduring peace without the participation of the People's Republic of China and its 750 million people.
For 25 years, diplomatic relations between the two great nations had chilled, following the United States' decision to recognize Taiwan as the legitimate government of China. President Nixon and his then National Security Advisor, Dr. Henry Kissinger, reached out to his communist adversary to change that.
The meeting between the leaders of China and the United States is to seek the normalization of relations between the two countries and also to exchange views on questions of concern to the two sides.
On February 21st, 1972, President Nixon, along with his wife Pat, arrived in Beijing. He was feted by the Chinese and honored by no less a figure than Chairman Mao himself. Richard Nixon's opening of China to the West has been described as genius, the boldest diplomatic move on the global chessboard in a century. In one stroke, Nixon had separated communist China from the Soviet Union, reducing the power of the communist bloc and paving the way for the eventual end of the Cold War. For Newsmax TV, I'm Bill Curtis, and this is an American Moment.